This is part, take the glasses off, 3 of my daughter, 18 years old. It would have been a special time if we were together, if things were normal. What's happened to me, I've had so much irritation. Even the clothes on my body irritated me. I have a horrible rash here from the soap that the detergent didn't wash it off properly. A horrible rash here. Anyway, I'm trying to stay focused. I have a stone heart that I don't really a circumcised heart. So I'm drinking plenty, which is 100%, what's the word, non-concentrated. And I also am taking healthy medications. I'm going to take that. And then I put my stone on the glass to stop any insects coming in that come through the window, like that. So let's see if this camera will turn around. Camera will not turn around. So I've been taking raspberry leaf, which helps me to lose weight, which is also putting more oil in my hair, treating my hair. I haven't looked at the email box or WhatsApp. This is the arrangement with my daughter, teenage daughter. But she's made it clear that she won't bother me anymore because she knows that contacting my daughter upsets me too much. And she's made that choice that her grandmother, my ex-mother-in-law, is more important. And her new family. And I'm not going to stop her. And at the same time, I'm not going to allow her to start believing that she could turn up at my door whenever she wants to. That won't be the case. Not now, not ever, at this property. Because it's not right, because she was taken away from me, and the officials that are probably looking at this video will not say anything, which is typical after they've destroyed someone's life. But I know Moses, in the example of the Holy Bible, had the power from God to condemn all the Pharaoh's children. And it's actually swapped, it's the other way around, because of the power, political power they have, powers they have, constitutions, constitutional powers, which is an oppressive legislation, my personal view, because it didn't have any detail or voice of my own experience with my daughter living with me. It was all one-sided. So I'm now trying to adjust on my belly, similar to a girl who is in a forest or jungle. And here is a puzzle. Now, this is the last puzzle that we have on the bookshelf that hasn't been done. I've been collecting them, colour in and spot the difference in puzzles. And that's how I remember her as a little girl. I mean, I haven't seen her since she was 13 years old. So, to me, it's very strange. She's now 18 years old. And still probably fighting for my life and my daughter's life, one way or the other. It may be best that we don't see each other, so that no more corruption takes place. But I have been praying that this turns around this situation, because God is great. God is bigger than my problems. And so what they have done is frame me and someone else who has been associated to the same workplace where my ex-husband and I had met. And there was a major, it started off with two sisters actually at a workplace. They're the main conspirators, and they made many inconsistencies in what they've said against me when I was engaged, and we both retired to get married in 2002. And so I had no clue that I was spied on by my work manager secretly, and she had sent spies. She's probably compared my wedding to her children's wedding to say her children's wedding was more elegant. She's probably had more holidays than me, best hotel services than me, in comparison to my one-off honeymoon in my entire life. And then my ex-husband died 7 years after our divorce, which was a 4-year divorce, a 4-year marriage. And how it all happened. How did I receive post-traumatic stress disorder and it all blew in my face, is that my home was turned into some type of a tomb or some type of a trench by the hypocrites who were saying that there is 2 adults who were 2 or 3 times older than me, called the sisters, in the managing factory, that they hated that we both resigned, not retired. And she then had set up or framed some other younger women who were jealous, envious, spiteful, and they didn't have any children at the time. Today they do, and they're still spying and stalking on me, as if to say I have no escape. She also joked about that she was going inside his car boot, probably. I don't know about that. But I think that's called carjacking, where they would swap cars and do all sorts of things with their cars. And there were men involved, not only women. Because they were adulterous, I insulted them and said that they are the same as LGBTQ. And that was my insult on them, because I knew they were swapping on me. And the woman too, the younger woman and the older woman would send lookalikes. And I didn't think it would ever end. So I was used to wearing earplugs in the condition that I could disempower them, their noise, their death threats and other threats that they've put on me. To preserve myself and to endure this evil, but how long do I have to endure it? So this main feature of part 3 of the video is how my daughter became abused, how my home was destroyed subsequently. Afterwards, moreover, I moved home, and that's when they attacked me the most, because the landlord had a different political status in their contract of agreement, which included Section 20, which was imposed on me in 2014. when we had a first new second home and first new second school. There was no guarantee for me to know they were going to use mental health services against me. And it was to me a gift from God to have a new home, so that I'm not in the same household where my ex-husband and I divorced, and where I had received the news that he died 7 or 8 years after our divorce. So I didn't want to remain in the same accommodation, which was a council accommodation. And this is the truth. We're looking into the truth to try and complete understanding for my counselling and those around me who are looking to support me. So it was an inconvenience that I learned that the same stalker who knew of my relationship with this particular man who was hijacking and swapping with his brother, he maintains his innocence. He says he's not guilty, it was arranged, the devil made him do it. But since the devil made him do it, I don't see him as being entirely innocent. Because there were eyewitnesses what he had done in the garden without any fence. In every significant event, whenever I put my foot outside my door, there he was, as my neighbour, and that was no coincidence. And yet I was forced to perceive that it was a coincidence, even with my best friend and my other neighbours. However, looking back in time, 19 years now, in total, I have a deeper meaning thanks to the YouTube videos that I'm doing. Again, to repeat and complete my understanding. Also referring to my notes, that infidelity, whether that is hanky-panky, and not have a relationship with someone and then spy on them, it's the same as activating a murder. That's why God says the adulteress is the same as murderers. So I had very suspicious circumstances, according to my notes. The giant Jim is symbolic to those that have betrayed me and pushed me into the nut house. I don't know who this is. They wrote false reports and ganged up on me in a group of 4. And they said, if you don't go in voluntarily, we'll make you go in. That's the first giant. The second individual was a fairy. Was my husband at the time of 4 years and my ex-husband. His attacks on both me and my daughter were invisible. It was the same as a game of chicken. He dared to sexually, or whatever he did, to attack my daughter and do child abuse. He already admitted that he left her alone in the home, not my home, his home, when we were divorced, to go to the shops. He admitted that he left her in front of the television alone for too long. He admitted that he only gave her 10 food to eat, 3 things. He also admitted that he jumped onto the railway track while she was in the pushchair watching him. 4th thing. And the 5th thing, she lost her teeth because he wasn't supervising her. She fell on the furniture. So 5 things where he had admitted that he was doing child abuse and child neglect and gotten away with it. So they made me brain dead. They drugged me. They poisoned my mind, my ability to think. My body was paralyzed because I was overdosed. I had tried 4 or 5 different types of psychotic they call it medicines, I call them drugs, and all of which was forced. For 1 year, injections, 115, and in total 10 years, pills. Every week every week they came to see me. I had no break. Even when I had gone to visit my dad in former Yugoslavia, whom I met my relatives, my parents, only 4 times in 40 years. They didn't want to know and they didn't care. Even then, when I was abroad, I was still being followed by mental health services as a type of animal that they were hunting down. So the officials currently would ignore my testimony in the public if they came across this video. I have specifically requested to my daughter at contact by telephone not to follow my social media. If she does, then she's guilty because I told her not to. She should mind her own business without my consent because it is my social media. So if she does, it would cause her a lot of pain, and I don't want my daughter looking at my social media. So I'm hoping independent authorities will watch out for that. So there's 5 issues on my case, introducing it further. There's number 1, absence of integrity in my daughter as a result, now that she's 18. Number 2, she doesn't care that I had a severe case of human cruelty and abuse, and she's ignoring that fact. Number 3, even equal, so God is now even equal to the devil and vice versa. She wants to own her beauty. She thinks she can purchase love, she can purchase beauty, she can purchase all this, and all the other things in connection to love can even be, manipulated or seduced. So that's going to make my daughter very suspicious and not have healthy relationships with the opposite sex and with her co-workers and loved ones as a result. Number 4, she accused me, or whatever she wanted to, without any evidence, and of child abuse or child neglect. They said that I wanted my daughter to be too perfect, which is not true. It's untrue. We had a natural environment and a healthy environment to my best ability. And last of all, number 5, how is this not racist? That my daughter at age 18 has more freedom than me, who is age 46. How is this not a hate crime? So what? Most of the government will make my daughter outstanding. Is that the word for indistinguishable? Being outstanding? And me being like the odd one out in the middle of nowhere forever. So that to me is an extreme injustice, that an 18-year-old can have grades A and grade B in her academia in her achievement for her GCSEs and A-levels, but she doesn't seem to understand these 5 major points, which is an insult to me. It's disobedience to me. It's out of order, it's disordered. To say that my daughter's going to grow up to be some narcissist or some distorted information in her mind, that she grows up with her head all messed up as a result, which is not my doing. Because of this disregard, that I'm being discarded as rubbish, all of this, negativities in the dictionary, is the outcome And then you've got people around me on YouTube or on the internet or my locality saying that I'm overthinking, which is also another insult. And at the same time, they can judge me as a bad example, how not to be a bad parent. So they have absolute no right to judge me. They have no right to tell me that I'm overthinking. Actually, this is my therapy. So the more I talk, the more I think, the more answers I have. The government is also accusing me of being ungrateful for the money that I receive as a claimant of state benefits. In fact, I had been exploited many times and my severe disability ignored. So I'm gonna move on to showing a picture, but it's quite dark. My daughter on a hospital bed. I was there by her side. When she had rotavirus, she recovered in 3 months, and it took me 6 to 9 years to recover. She brought it from school. Here she is again, in a hospital bed. There was no one else there. It was me, taxi, and me administrating medication to my daughter. After she recovered, I took her to fun fairs. This is a inflatable ball, transparent. She would go in there and bounce on the water as if nothing has happened, as if she was never in a hospital. Children are resilient, but she also was educated by me. Here's evidence of learning to do maths. So whenever we did our shopping for our groceries, how much did it cost? What's the quantity? And what's the weight? So she was learning her maths. We had emergency situations where our pipe would frozen and I'd put a glove on it with sheepskin and duct tape in an emergency while we were waiting for a repair, for a boiler and other emergency services. At winter time, I made sure she was dressed well, whereas the school at the gates told us to get lost. In other words, you're not going to stay under my umbrella if you're going to come an hour early to school, which was extremely rude. Headmaster at Tanner's Wood School in Abbots Langley, and the other school for primary school was Shepherd's School in Rickmansworth. Both of which are secular school, and we had no choice in the matter where my daughter went to school. From as a claimant of state benefit, tortured and divorced mum, single mum. So we had no choice in the matter. It would help if the government would allow us to have that choice to send our children to a Christian school, for example. She enjoyed having her hair done. I had not taken her to the hairdressers. I used to do her own hair, and that was one way of saving money. She was afraid to use a knife to do her sandwiches, so I supported my daughter to use a spoon to make the sandwiches instead of a knife, which was amusing to watch. We did play board games, not only computer games. We had Jenga there, so we didn't only have computer games. We did have every day we went out. There wasn't a single day that we didn't go out, unless we were sick with a flu, which wasn't very often. Her attendance was 98% most of the time, even though I didn't drive a car. We enjoyed going to the park a lot. We also had a technique of removing frustration. So we had a technique of removing anger, which was to either scream in the pillow, get angry with a cardboard and rip it to bits and pieces with a cardboard, and make artificial weapons. So the frustration relief or respite was to find a squidgy and throw it on the ceiling and then try and catch it. That was a way of removing therapy for removing frustration or impatience. There are 3 aspects of why I was persecuted, why it started. Number 1, after going through a divorce, being a divorced woman, I was pursued by a man sexually to have a relationship with him. And I knew he wasn't the right one. And so they defended him because he's a taxpayer and he knows police officers. When I reported him to the police, because of the car park and because of the fact that I had no fence and because of the fact that he was my neighbour, not coincidental, I realised that they were the police, that he is friends with the police. And they told me, you're not allowed to be happy. And no happy endings for you. Because I resisted him. I didn't want to have a relationship with him because it was the wrong time for me, it was the wrong time for him, it was the wrong time, full stop, during my divorce and just soon after my divorce. So they wanted to get the revenge, first of all, with the police. Second of all, they are white supremacists and black supremacists who said that I was too dumb and I was not straightforward enough. And I don't know why they're still on my case. Because all they ever do is insult me. And even purchase houses to live near me. Number 3, economic migrant. But I don't see myself as an economic migrant on a deeper thought because of this video. I was a ward of court. And it was serious, it was well organised, and it was legal. So I purchased my citizenship. And I've gone right through the legal. So I'm more than only an economic migrant. I have been offered a citizenship. It was offered to me. Because they knew that both of my parents were so dysfunctional and so uncaring and callous. So they've taken away my citizenship. These 3 authorities in Hertfordshire. What the hell? They've implemented new laws and practices to remove my existing and ongoing, pre-existing and ongoing British citizen, to treat me like an illegal migrant or to treat me like a rubbish refugee. These 3 points. And so far, they are profiting from my suffering. As if I'm some type of reconstruction. So I'm publishing this video to fight tooth and nail against this monster. Not only is it a monster's ink in whatever they have typed, they go further than that. They have probably stolen my facial recognition, stolen my fingerprint, stolen my personal information such as my passport information. So they've gone, ever since I've started using Google and Facebook, they've stolen my things. So this is beyond eccentric. It is a crime to even attempt to steal my handwriting by it's fraudery. That's the word. And I'm very upset by it. That today there's no authorities that are there to protect their citizens anymore. I don't know. They think that my 20 years of suffering period is not enough. They want me to suffer for 40 years plus, because 20 years plus is not enough, which is institutional racism. They don't think I'm a white supremacist or a black supremacist because I'm not rich enough or I'm not racist enough. So that's the issue that I've got here. Sometimes a soldier would have an option to jump out of an aeroplane, helicopter with a parachute to get out of a situation. Other times, when you're ambushed, a soldier can find some escape, if not entire escape entirely. So this is the situation. Introducing. I haven't got many pictures on this video, I don't think, because it's dark. There's my daughter again on a scooter. And all of these I'm going to puncture holes in, so that every time she looks at these pictures, if she does have the opportunity in the future, on earth or in heaven, because I know God has a copy of these pictures, she will see a hole in it and she'll ask questions. Mum, why is there a hole? Why did you puncture a hole with a pen in these pictures? And I'll tell her why. Yikes! Because I want her to know there's certain things in her life that she didn't know about. She wasn't mature enough or emotionally stable enough to know. So that's another reason why I'm telling her to go away and don't come too close to me. Go and enjoy your life. Because if I tell her the truth, or she finds out the truth on social media, I think that will destroy her life. So I don't want to tell her until she's about 30 or 40. She did enjoy eating chicken. She's eating chicken there. Taking a big bite. She also liked cooking. She's making scrambled eggs there in a silicone container. She had a giant balloon. Probably flew up to space. A Jack in the Box. She had a weather monitor, so we knew. Look, is it windy today? Oh yes, it's windy. Or we would just use this to see what the wind was doing before we put what type of coat to put on. And everything that we did, we praised God. And just use simplistic things such as keyboard to play music on the keyboard. We also had an air ball, which wasn't. It was one of these big balls that was inflated, giant balls. She enjoyed climbing frames. She looks like she's just woken up on that one. Where am I? she looks happy in this one. So their age is variable from age 5. This is age, I have to tell you age every picture, I think. How old was she? She was age 5 or 4 in this one. Watching her television, where I was in control of the television. It wasn't licensed. It was on DVDs, discs. Bouncy Castle. The first time she saw a black coloured individual. She's never seen one before. Here she had a razzle dazzle first necklace that I helped her make, that razzle dazzle. Here she tasted seaweed for the first time. Or she liked seaweed. Here she tasted a mint sweet for the first time at Christmas, and she didn't quite know what to make out of that. So looking at the 5 senses was also really important, as well as the emotions. So I also have been studying the Montessori primary school, where I was gathering my information. I didn't have a companion. I just had formal associates. I still do. But they were not too far away. They were close by, where I could just pop onto the road and go to a certain place to meet someone and open up a conversation about childcare. And it was a blessing, Montessori school, that they had real insight to advise me on taking care of each other's senses and being sensitive, not hypersensitive, and cautious, not overcautious, to be realistic about fear when there is danger, and at the same time to learn fearlessness, to learn to be brave, and bravery can be sometimes stupid if it's taking life risks. So crossing the road on her own, she was not allowed to go on a bicycle on a road. She was not allowed. So, but she did have her bicycle from age 5. She did go swimming from age 4. And this was regular. So I enjoyed being with my daughter. We made each other laugh a lot for drinking, having new flavours as well, for fruit juice, and we used to go farm, pick your own fruit and vegetables. I did do a lot of cooking. This here is some meal I made. Also making pancakes and things. Mama made a pancake. She loved banana pancakes. She also loved her hairstyles, but I did go gently and not be too rough on her head, so that it didn't hurt. So that's how I complete my video here, to remember that God has been like a good thief in my life and in my daughter's life, even though we were surrounded by the majority who were watching us for evil. And Jesus mocked. No, the bad soldiers were mocking and insulting Jesus. When my daughter knew of Jesus and God Almighty, through my regular study of the Bible, every 24 hours, every day, not necessarily to her, to myself, she could see me reading. she could see I was interested. And the inscription in the Bible, some of which is there that is satanic, because Satan also knows the Bible as much as Jesus knew the Bible. Testing in the desert is evidence of that. But since Jesus had resurrected from the dead, and Easter coming, 2023, Jesus became more than a leader. He's the King of the Kings through God Almighty. To say that Jesus is the high priest, there is no prayer or holy communication higher than his. And it's somewhat of a relief that Jesus came to do the swapping this time. That we can mock all those soldiers and child protecting agencies and vulnerable families. The very things that they said that they were going to do to protect us is exactly the opposite that they did to harm us. So it's now my opportunity to mock and insult them. To say, you watched us for evil, so now God is watching you for evil as a pervert of justice and an obscurance of justice. So if they've killed spiritually, my daughter is now dead. She has no longer any faith in God because her dad was an atheist. God is also going to kill their spirits. They're going to be like a sieve, and the majority is going to grow in number as a typical narcissist, as a commoner who is no one special, precisely because they have so much more than me, materialistically, financially, spiritually even. They have so much more than me, and yet they're still not happy. So God had allocated holy angels and the Holy Spirit as my helper to attack all my enemies and turn them into sieves. So everything that they have as a blessing, it becomes as a sieve, because they have cursed the poorest in society and said that poverty is a curse. Simple living, moderate living, is not necessarily a curse. I want to repeat that. Simple living and being modest, is not necessarily a curse. So that's how God has swapped the situation with the death of Jesus, what they did to his body after death and burial, what they did at the time he was crucified and insulted. Get yourself off of the cross. How was God, Jesus the good thief, according to Luke? He turned around to the good thief and said, you deserved this punishment, I didn't. But because you acknowledge your guilt and you are sorry for your guilt, today you'll see me in paradise. And that's how God turned the bad guy into the good guy. And even during the darkest times of Jesus' life, as the Son of the living God, the creator of heaven and earth, you open your heart and let the healer come in. Look what Jesus did. He even had a little party. He even had squeezed in a little celebration. A little bit of good news, or a huge bit of good news, right in the middle of the worst case scenario. And that is to save somebody out of hell. The two other thieves next to him, and when they died together on that hill, but the skull. And so that's the amazing thing, that when Jesus was at his worst hour, when he resurrected, it became the best hour, because he's no longer the victim, he is now the victorious, and Jesus is now going to bully the bully. And he did bully the bully because they were so terrified when the good angel rolled the stone and sat on it And he raised from the dead. That there are many documents in the Bible that talk about the authority of God, and they said that's enough now. No amount of money can shut you up, and no amount of enclosed social isolation or shut up, where you go into the top prison cells. That's how my life has been, as if I've been put in an observation cell, as if I had been a murderer, to those top prisons. That's how it has been, with padded rooms for me. But being a prisoner for Jesus. And so now I have the opportunity to say, look, I'm alive. I'm not an adulterer. You are. I'm not what you accused me to be. You are. My mouth is not dirty. Yours is. I'm not an abuser. You are. And, in fact, everything that I could put my hand on, I would do better than them. In a professional and moral sense, personal sense. Because God had told me. So after being bullied, now I can be a bully by saying what I'm saying. I don't have to use the effing slandering word. I can just say Jesus is King, and Jesus is healing the brokenhearted, healing my broken body, healing the fact that I have been, I wouldn't say bankrupt, I would say I'm broke. That means that after paying all my bills and after making sure all the child maintenance and money I had was always prioritised for my daughter, I didn't have double standards, and yet they forced double trouble on me. Why do they always pick on the righteous? But God told me, if you stand up for yourself at the wrong time and at the wrong place, you would be exactly the same as them, self-righteous. But if you suffer for me in the prison of Jesus Christ, in a padded room for the murderers, I will destroy your destroyers and betray your betrayers. That's what Jesus told me, and Jesus has accomplished that. And that's how I'm happy, to have a little bit of a competition and a little bit of a challenge, but not too much, in danger of becoming the same as a witch and a wizard. It is the witch and the wizard, in other words, a sinner, that has extreme challenge and competition. So I am not self-righteous. I am righteous because Jesus made me right. That I suffered, and God suffered with me. Emmanuel, God is with us. And God's timing is different from mine. No one knows the time when Jesus is coming. That's how God is more superior than me. And God's ways and thoughts are higher than me. And that's also a relief, to know that I don't have to be in control of everything. That God knows everything, even the things I don't. In every place that cannot be touched, that is remote. And so it's annoying, and it gets on my nerves when certain authorities and officials think that they can get away with touching every remote place on the planet Earth, because there's some places that can never be touched, and God has hidden them. So there's a lot of minute things and microscopic things that will also frustrate, fast frustrate, quickly, fast, because they'll discover things under the microscope that will defy their claim as an atheist, that there is no God and there is no designer. So they too will have a hole in their head. And to close this video, why I married an atheist. And that's because, I just slap head. That's because I was groomed from a church place. I was groomed from age 15. He found me, he watched me, he sexed me, he engaged me for 4 years. 2 men in my entire life. Forced me to take contraceptives, threatened me if I get pregnant. Portuguese, Spanish chappie. And then the second, I was raped as a one-off sleepover. And then the third, I was married for 4 years. So 4 years of engagement, 4 years of marriage, all of which were satanic. They were not lovers, they were abusers. And God is my witness. It's amazing to me, my determination, what the hell I'd gone through. Taking care of my daughter for 10 years, it was, and still is, equivalent to taking care of 10 children. Not only one, because of the persecution. I know I have been an evil couple. I've been part of an evil couple who are criminals. I cannot call a criminal my husband. So if he is a criminal, God must cleanse him from that crime. And I'm happy to remain single, but if it is God's will for me to be remarried, because God knows I need a helper. But it's not about the money. It's about learning to live with myself independently, which I have done for 19 years, as a single mum, and to say that I'm no longer a single mum. So that is more than a sign. It's more than my signature. It's an inscription. Just like God says, I have you in my hand. So I'm in God's hands. I believe that. And similar to the fingerprint that has inscripted all my veins. And that to me, it blows my mind to know that I'm in God's hand, I'm engraved as of all God's people. So those that are not covered and not engraved or in God's hand will have to take care not to be deceived, because many will come in God's name and deceive you. And I have been praying to say that if I have tempted somebody, I apologize to say I'm single. And I didn't mean to tempt anybody. I'm poverty stricken. I cannot call myself a widow. But I am not there. God is not there to put anyone to the test. That's my job, because I'm not a goddess. But it is my job to put everyone to the test. The Bible says, put all spirits to the test. I have spoken quietly. I haven't spoken up. Because deliberately, to see who's really interested would really listen to me closer and pay attention. Those who are not really interested, they can tune off. So if you have subscribed, in closing, I'm hoping to find new resources, advance in my new technology and presentation. At the moment it's casual, but mostly professional. In closing this video, until my following video, I have a lot of pictures here to go through. I'm hoping to complete 2 to 3 videos every day until I complete all these pictures. I also have photo albums. I don't want to go through them, but I may do next year. I'm closing as my Maria and Mima.